This is why I came out of retirement. Hey everybody, Jeff Stone here with another episode of MagicReview.com. We have the floating cube. Oh my gosh. First of all, the packaging is just annoying. This is not going to be a good review. You can already sense it, I'm sure. I get what they're trying to do, right? That's supposed to be like the cubes floating out of there, right? And then it's growing and floating out, and this is all crooked. But it looks like they just paid a child to design the box, and they didn't get anything straight. Anyway, that's maybe an insult to children. Sorry about that. So, what's the effect? Well, it's supposed to be a floating cube. You can't even do the effect, so we'll just stop there. But the effect supposedly is a floating cube, right? Okay, what's the method? It's a very, very light cube. It's hollow and it's made out of foam, basically. And then you get with it actually a pretty good ITR, right? It's actually one of the better ones I've seen. Surprisingly, it's amazing the contrast between this and that, which I'm not going to show you in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But it's one of the best designed ones. You know, my dad was an auto mechanic. Sounds like I'm tangenting, but I'm not. And he would often complain about engines or cars being designed by people who were not mechanics, who didn't know how to work on it. Like those, I'm sure you've heard stories where to give the car a tune-up, you have to take apart half the engine to get to the spark plugs or whatever. Or, you know, to do an oil change, you can't reach anything unless you take half the engine apart, right? My dad hated stuff like that. Well, a lot of ITRs, I think, were designed not by magicians who are going to use them, but by some engineers that are being too clever for their own good. This particular one is one that I think was designed to be used in the real world. And so it gives you easy access to the secret stuff. If it breaks, it's easy to get to and fix it. It can be tensioned, it's small, and it doesn't use a safety pin to stick on you. It uses magnets to stick to you. It has a little plate, and then there's magnets on the thing, and then you put it, inside your jacket, and they magnet together or something like that. So, I mean, it might be worth getting this just for this thing here, because I think those things cost more than this whole thing does. The whole thing is $30. So, that tangent aside, what you're being told you're getting is a floating cube.
But for now, for your customer's sake, for your daughter's sake, you might want to think about buying a quality product from me.
Okay, I just told you a little bit about the ITR. The quality there is really good. This thing here is decent enough made, right? It's light, and it even has the ability to turn those edges right there because they just come off, right? It's hollow inside. And so this thing is decent enough. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't look like a regular Rubik's Cube, though, for a couple of reasons. One, it's misstickered. On a real Rubik's Cube, the white and yellow are opposite. And now I know an audience doesn't necessarily know that, but here's the problem. The video, the very first thing he says in the video is that you can't make it float, which this thing's called the floating cube. And he says, no, you don't want to make it float because it'll jiggle and spin in place and it'll kind of give away the method. He literally says that in the tutorial. So then he does show you how to make it to where it's just sitting on the table and you kind of move your hands and it flips over, or you put your finger on it and then you lift your finger and the cube goes along with it. Those are both doable and will work with everything supplied, and he teaches them well enough that you could do those two effects if you wanted to do that. Everything else, the closest thing you get to a floating cube is when it's here, he puts his hand here and it goes up to that hand. Right, it floats up to that hand, but it's not even a float. It's more of it moves up to that hand, right? And that's it. That's all you get. The tutorial is pretty short and it doesn't really cover anything about floating at all. And the couple times where he kind of shows you what that might look like, he shows you the cube spinning and wobbling and how it doesn't look good and you shouldn't make it float. Well, then don't call the product a floating cube, right? That's ridiculous. All right, so product quality, it's this thing, decent. The ITR, really good. The video, it's well shot. I mean, it's a Murphy's Magic production. It's Javier teaching everything. It's well produced, but you can't do the effect that they're telling you can do. So I don't know if that's a product quality hit or an ad copy hit. Speaking of ad copy, let's take a look at that. So let's take these one at a time. First ad copy claim is a Rubik's Cube floats, dances in the air without any visible support. Nope, that does not happen. They don't teach that. They may show that in the trailer. They may have, and if they did, that's even worse because they don't teach it to you. So no, you will not get a floating cube if you buy this. Second claim. Imagine being able to solve a Rubik's Cube and then immediately making that cube roll over on the table. No, unless you count, going from this to that being solving a Rubik's Cube, then no. That is how my daughter, when she was like 1, would solve the Rubik's Cube. So no, you can't solve it and go right into making it move on the table. You have to do some sort of a switch, right? Okay. The next thing is, this is the perfect way to start or end any Rubik's Cube routine. Well, no, it isn't. Putting aside the, is it perfect or not? It's not even a way to do it. I mean, it's a bad way, but it's not a way to do it. You can't do that. You have to switch the cube, right? So if I'm doing a bunch of Rubik's Cube stuff, then I have to switch it in for this one. Okay, well, how do you switch it in? That's not taught in the video at all. I'll tell you a little bit about what they teach you in just a minute, but it's basically just not taught at all. Next question, how do you switch it out? It's the same problem. So if you're gonna start with this, start to make it float, whatever, and then you're gonna go into some regular Rubik's Cube effects, you gotta switch it in. Then you have, or if you're gonna do it the other way where you start with a regular cube and then you switch to this one. Either way, there's some switching going on. None of that is covered in the video. So as I'm watching, I'm thinking, okay, how can I get from one cube to the other? Okay, let's put aside something we're going to talk about in a minute, which is the fact that this doesn't even look like a Rubik's Cube, a regular one. We'll talk more about that in a second. I kind of hinted a moment ago, but we're going to look at that more in depth in a second. But in the video, while I'm watching, I'm thinking, okay, if I had a cube that looked like this and I wanted to switch between the two, show me how to do that, right? As I'm thinking that, then suddenly that comes up in the video. But here's what happens. It's exactly 27 seconds, right? And I did time it. Here's what he said. I actually transcribed it. This is the entire section that teaches you how to switch cubes. You ready? Now keep in mind, before I read it, you are connected to this thing, right? You got the ITR inside of you. Connected to this, you're connected to it. If you're going to do it, you have to be connected to it. The way this is set, the only way to disconnect it is to take it apart, to disconnect it. That's the only way to disconnect, right? There's no other way, unless you want to break the secret stuff, right? Which you can do, but that's not ideal, because even though this is one of the better ones for undoing a break, it's still not a fun process. Okay, keep that in mind that you're connected to this thing, and here we go. He says, now you also want to consider how you're going to bring this in and out of play. If you have a briefcase, you can maybe start with a regular Rubik's Cube, put it away, and then bring this one out. Or you can start with this one, animate it, put it away, and then say, oh wait, I forgot to show you what I wanted to show you in the first place. Now you come out with a regular Rubik's Cube, and you move on to the routines that you already do. Are you freaking kidding me right now? How in the world? If I'm connected to this thing, if I start with a cube, then I have to somehow connect to this. Well, if this is sitting in my briefcase, how do I connect to it while I go in my briefcase to switch the regular cube I've been using? How? What are you talking about? And if I'm already connected and I'm going to put this in the briefcase and grab a regular Rubik's Cube, okay, how do I disconnect? You never discuss that. Ridiculous. That was a waste of 27 seconds. Those instructions are stupid. There's just, what in the world? They're completely useless and don't give you anything. I'll get off my rant here. Next up, I've been around a lot of Rubik's Cubes in my life. I own literally hundreds of Rubik's Cubes. I probably at any given moment have 300 to 400 cubes in my house or near me, my office, in my drawer. I got tons of these everywhere. And I've seen all kinds of different cubes from all kinds of different manufacturers, everything. No Rubik's Cube out there that functions looks like this. The closest one that you might find is dollar stores have cubes that kind of look like this. But dollar store cubes, they're $1. You can't do cube magic with a dollar cube. If you want a good cube that's good for this kind of stuff, you need to spend a decent amount of money, right? They're not cheap. Like my main cube that I use all the time, this guy right here, it has its own case. It's a $35 cube, right? It's got magnets built into it so that it locks in place and doesn't overshoot, it doesn't go past. It just, right? Now, this is not even stickered, so it doesn't look anything like this. I couldn't use this cube. I'd have to use a stickered cube. I'd have to match the colors, which these are odd colors. It doesn't talk about anywhere where you can get stickers to match. It doesn't tell you where to get a cube that matches it. And I looked for cubes that looked like this, and I couldn't find one other than I have a memory of getting one from a dollar store that looks kind of like this, but I can't even say for sure if it looks close enough because I haven't seen it forever. This was years and years ago, so I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. So finding a cube that matches is going to be a problem. And then if the whole point was that you're going to do your other Rubik's Cube tricks with apparently this cube, but you switch it in for one that looks like it. Well, you can't do Rubik's Cube tricks with the cube that you would switch in that looks like this because they're crap and they don't turn, and you can't even turn them one-handed, and they stick and they're stiff and they're crap. This whole thing is just a disaster. It's just complete garbage. The only reason I didn't give it a 0 star is because the ITR is actually really good. But even on that, one of my magnets was broken off. And so I happened to get this at a sale from Murphy's. It was on a discount sale. So I bought it and I paid literally $9 for it, right? It's a $30 product. I got it for $9. So I sent them a thing saying, hey, can you send me another one with a better magnet? They gave me a $9 credit. Well, so, okay, I now if I want a magnet that works, I have to spend $30, right? Because that's or whatever the wholesale is. I can buy it at wholesale, but I have to still pay more than what I paid for it. I'm not going to do that. So I don't know if yours is going to have a broken magnet or not. It was just detached. It still will do the job, but I think it'd be better if that magnet wasn't broken off, right? But even that had a little bit of a hit to the product quality. So final thoughts. The effect, there isn't one. The method, it's not doable. The product quality, bordering on terrible when it comes to the video anyway. ITR is good. This thing, for what it's supposed to be, is fine. It's just that it doesn't match a regular Rubik's Cube, so it's not great. But it's the video instructions where I have a real problem. The first thing to tell you is you can't do the effect that you just paid for. The next thing at the end is that they talk to you how to supposedly switch it, which is garbage. So terrible. Add copy integrity. Completely dishonest. So you can animate like shown in the trailer, and you can have the cube stick to your finger like shown in the trailer. That is it. Final verdict on this thing, 1.5 stars with a stone status of rubble. So that's it for this one. That's the last thing I'm filming today. Also, I was going to do like a Rubik's Cube week because I got 2 more products that I've already watched them and I'm ready to write the review and everything. And I had a couple books at Rubik's Cube that I had read recently. But if I did this, then this review might not get to you fast enough. When it's a crappy product, I want to get it to you guys sooner so you don't end up spending your money on it. If it's a really good one, it can wait. But when it's crap, I want to get it to you right away. And so that's why I just abandoned the whole Cube Week thing, because I didn't want to wait because I'd have to push it out for a couple more weeks. So anyway, shut up, Jeff. Time for you to listen to the random iTunes song of the moment. But while you do that, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Buy me a diet soda down there by clicking on the thanks button. And the song today is another Doro. I keep getting her. Got a lot of her stuff apparently. This is Herzblatt live version. I don't know how to say that. It's probably a German word that I don't know, and maybe I just swore at you in German. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's it. I already told my Doro story. Don't really have much more. Just had another Warlock song come up a few minutes ago on a video I just did. So we're out of stories today, folks. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time where we review. And until then, folks, we'll see you. Peace out. My neck's crooked. That's not solving a Rubik's Cube. That's how my, styrofoam squeak. Oh, whew. Oh, I almost passed out. Floating cube, my